All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here, and today on Meet Cool People, I have a new friend. Little bit of a backstory here. Robert Plank, who was on a previous episode here, introduced the two of us, and he said, "Hey, you'd be a great guest for the show." And I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, but I don't just get anybody on the podcast. It's all people that I actually have to have real conversations with." And so our guest, Steve Kidd, said, "I would love to have a conversation with you." We got on a call, and I don't even remember how long we talked, but we talked for way longer than we both expected to, had an amazing conversation. And I was like, "Yeah, all right, I like you. You are cool. You definitely need to come hang out." So I'm going to do a quick little introduction. This is Steve Kidd. He's the international best-selling author, syndicated radio host, speaker, and visibility strategist. He has had over 40 years of helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs, authors, and leaders clarify their message. He has helped launch more than 5,000 best-selling authors, and he hosts the long-running syndicated radio show, A Thriving Entrepreneur. So with that, Steve, thanks for coming and hanging out today, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be like I said on the intro. You know this because you and I talked about it. This show is literally one of those things where it's like, no, I have cool conversations with cool people, and then I decide to invite them on the show. But that's the only way it happens. And we had such a cool conversation. We've both been in this this industry for a long time, and getting to see somebody who's got the background and experience and the stories that you do, it was a lot of fun to talk about. So of course I was like, hey, let's have the show. So tell us a little bit more. You've really established yourself in the author world. How did that come about?
Oh, this is such a fun story. You're going to love it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, total BI accident. I mean, so we've been a marketing company for 40 years. In 2000, at the end point of 2007, my then wife and my youngest daughter were huge Twilight fans. If you remember the movie Twilight, yeah, the teeny bopper vampire movie, for those of you that aren't familiar, um, they were huge fans. And so for my daughter's 18th birthday, that would have been February of 2008, they went on a mother-daughter trip to go to all the filming locations for the first Twilight movie. We lived approximately within an hour of most all of those locations. And they blogged all about it, and they were all excited. And it was kind of an underground hidden secret that nobody knew. And so as they began to expose it, people were like, oh, really? That's where that one is? Okay, cool. I helped them take those blog posts and actually make it into a book. The book's called Experience Twilight. It has both all of the filming locations for the original Twilight movie, as well as all of the designated places that the city of Forks, which is not where it was filmed at, has designated. This is where this is and that. And that little book became actually the #1 best-selling movie-related travel guide on Amazon, totally by accident, because Twilight fans are totally crazed in the best sort of way. And that is literally where we discovered just how powerful best-selling and using the phrase best-selling author really is. And that moved us into that whole field just from that crazy little movie. So.
Oh, that is funny. So, okay, so where did you live then? Because I was up in the Northwest. So where were you at that point?
So at that point, we were living, and it's kind of cool because we actually moved right after that, but we were living in a town called Ocean Park, Washington,
Okay.
which is on the Long Beach Peninsula, Long Beach, Washington, not Long Beach, California.
Yep.
Had the ocean as our backyard, and all that kind of stuff. And then we actually moved from there to the city of St. Helens, which is, it's essentially Port Angeles in the movie, in the original Twilight movie.
Right.
In fact, my daughter opened up a business, which then she got married, and Dad ended up getting to run the business. That was, literally right there on the main street where there's a bunch of filming locations. There's about 7 different filming locations, one of which is the iconic alley, which was literally right next door to our building.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's cool. No, so I didn't know that part. Like, I didn't know you had been up there, because that's where, like, I was in Portland, and so I spent a lot of time up in that whole arena before I ended up moving down here to Dallas, which is awesome. No, that is very cool, and that is such a fun story. I mean, most people that I see that are into the authoring side of things, into, whether it be publishing or whatever, they're a lot of times it's like, okay, this is the thing and I want to get my message out to the world. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but that's like the same story a lot of people have. And yours was like, oh no, we're going to do this and it's going to be, you do it as an experiment and have some fun, and it's like, oh wait a minute, this is kind of cool. Let's move in this direction. I love that because I think that you're better at your craft and you can have more fun with it when you kind of accidentally fall into something as opposed to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I really do. I think that you have a very different take on it when you can do that. So that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, from that standpoint of working with authors, are the people that are coming to you and working with you, are they already like, I want to write a book and I need help? Or are they, do they, already have a manuscript, or are they just like, I don't know, but I think I might possibly want a book? Like kind of where do people come to you for this?
I mean, initially, it was very much people who are like, "Oh man, I've always wanted to write a book, and I just don't know how to do it."
Okay.
Um, when you get across the 5,000 mark, I mean, it's everywhere from I did my book 20 years ago and it's doing nothing for me, all the way to I
Okay.
think I want to write a book, but I don't even have any idea I want to.
Right.
Still, probably about 60 or 70% of them are people who, have this dream for a book, and we help them with it.
Nice. That is cool. And you brought up something very funny. I was just talking to somebody about my book that came out in April, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a couple people tell me I should write a book, and I don't know." And I'm like, "You know what? Just at nothing, start making your notes. Record yourself talking about the things you would put in the book, or journal it, whatever. Start getting it together, because when you're ready, you might have the book already done, really." But I find a lot of people that when I put the book out, I had a lot of people go, "That's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to write a book." And I'm just like, "So start writing." I mean, it's like, that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing, is like, you don't have to get it all done overnight. I got mine done really fast, but that was because I was pushing to get it done. But, if you don't sit down and start writing, you'll never finish it. And so, if you have people that are coming to you in that arena, that they are like, I've always wanted to do a book, how do you get them started, get them motivated to do the thing?
I always suggest writing via interview. Let's get
Okay.
on a Zoom call and just get talking. The
Hmm.
best interviews are really the ones where somewhere in the middle of it, the person's going to say, "Does this make any sense?" That means I know that they're just talking versus trying to craft this beautiful book in their head. And then, legitimately, we have story developers that can take that whole transcript and give them back their book, the rough draft of it. It's about
Yeah.
70-80% of the way done, but that is so much easier than a blank piece of paper. I mean, all of my books, all 43 of them now, I've written via interview, and
Mhm.
I do the same concept. I'm literally interviewing myself in my brain.
Right. No, and I love that. And that's what I ended up doing for mine too, is to talk through what I wanted, because I knew, like, the first chapter I was physically typing and it just was taking a lot longer than I wanted to. And I'm like, okay, I know a lot of people have done it this way. Maybe I should give it a try. And so I literally was like, okay, here's my outline. Here's the stuff I want to talk about. And I just hit record and just started talking and told my stories and talked about this and that and the other. And then when you go back and you look at what you've got, you're like, huh, I said a couple of smart things in there. It's amazing when we can just talk and just let it flow what comes out. And I do the same thing with my clients when I'm working, helping them with their emails and their LinkedIn posts and stuff. I'm doing that same process where I interview them. And again, like you said, the best ones are just like where they just go and then they're like, did that make sense? And I was like, no, that's what we want. Cause that's when they're just letting it flow as opposed to trying to say the most perfect words.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we have the advantage now there's ditches on both sides of this road, but we do have the advantage now of AI can take all of those recordings. I mean, if you just dumped a
Mhm.
bunch of them into there, and say, what am I saying here? Um, Maybe you don't have it write the whole book for you, but it can kind of go through. I've actually
Mhm.
got a book of mine that I wrote, oh gosh, it's been about 7 years ago now, that one of my AIs is going through with me right now. And they're like, do you realize that this thing that we've been working on, you were talking about that back in, and I was like, man, I didn't have any idea that I was
Right.
sharing the things that are now every day with, in just something that I was writing that had nothing to do at all with business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. And that's, for me with mine, and I want to talk about the AI stuff for just a minute. I try not to talk about it too much because I get tired of talking about AI. But um for me, this is one of the things that I was a really big one. I'm not a fan of people like there's so many people that are out there just like, "Oh, just write your book with AI." And what they're doing is saying, "Hey, here's my topic. Give me 10 chapters and start writing it for me." That's you didn't write the book. You didn't do anything. But for me, I took it and I took all the manuscript, gave it to it after I had it basically fleshed out and said, okay, you're my editor. I want you to tell me what you think I should change. And I didn't let it change any of it. I said, give me your thoughts and ideas. What's good? What's bad? What needs to be changed? And it gave me probably 3 or 4 pages per chapter, very very distinct stuff like, okay, you said this and this sentence doesn't really make sense. I would recommend tweaking it like this. Or my best part was it would say, okay, in chapter 3 you said this story, but in chapter 7 you talked about the same story. Go ahead and go with the full story here, but in chapter 7 you need to just do a cut down, like a mention of it, because it's okay there, that you don't need to tell the whole thing twice. And I'm just like, that was phenomenal for me, because then I could go through and go, okay, this is going to make it flow better. But again, I used it as an editor, and I made the changes. I verified every little thing to go, okay, I like that, I don't like that, and all of those. And it was phenomenal for that. So I mean, I keep telling people, it's like, there are places where it comes into play where it's good to do, use AI in those kind of capacities. Just be careful to not go on the other side, which I do want to touch on this. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but with the rise of AI and so many people using AI to write their books, what are your thoughts on that? Where are you on this, on the fence on that one?
Well, the thing that's missing in, and I have all kinds of people that are coming to me all the time. So I just wrote this new thing, and let me, um, the thing that's missing in almost, if not every system that I've seen, is AI can't tell you who you are. You
Yes.
have to tell it who you are. Um, and that's the piece that's totally missing. And people are just like, they go out there. It reminds me of, this is 10 years ago. Uh, a person was literally sitting next to Gary Vaynerchuk in a meeting, and they're like, Gary, I totally like, like 80% of my book is stuff that I've quoted that are things that you've taught. And Gary, if you know him
Yeah,
or
I
have
I
seen him,
do know
has
Gary. Yeah.
has a real that kind of personality. He looks at him and goes, so when am I getting my royalty check? And they're
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? He's like, if 80% of your book is my stuff, then it's really my book. And so I should be getting paid for my stuff. And really, that's the same concept with AI. It's like, if
Right.
you're just dumping a few little things. In fact, really, going back to your earlier question, the best thing to do would be just to go to AI. Voice to text is so cool now, and
Mhm.
most of them have that. Just go in and just say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to capture this and then make it a document at the end of each one of these,
Right.
and then just talk to whatever the limit of it is, and just tell it stories about your whole entire life, just
Mhm.
every crazy thing, and then there's that time that my brother and I did, there was that time when my dad, I mean, just nothing related, just
Just
like
let
you're
it just
trying
talk.
to become somebody best friends.
Yep.
And then collect all those together and say, okay, here's a really good data set of just kind of who I am as a person. Now from that, let's start looking at the book, and then AI knows it. I mean, unless you're like me and you've got 12 years of radio show and 43 books and, years
Right.
and years of lives, and you can go, here's more data than you're ever going to want on me to tell you about me. That's the way to do it.
Right. No, and I agree with that. I think it's a great way to go through because you and it's I mean, I'm sure you do the same thing when you're working with clients. I do this where I'm, you know, I interview them not just to talk about the topic, but also to get their stories and their experiences and their quirks. Like there are certain things that people have in the way they talk and the way they present themselves and how they say the words that they say that AI is never going to get. And that's where, like, for me, that's like my big pushback on AI right now. Cause so many people, like, from the email side, everybody's like, oh, I can just have AI write all my emails for me. I'm like, yeah, you can, but it doesn't mean they're not going to suck. And it's like, well, the reason is because it's got to have you. And I think, even more so, like for me, I'm a big advocate for, email, social media, any of that kind of stuff. It needs to be you. It needs to be your stories and your personality and everything. But a book is even more. Like that's the part that to me, the people that are doing that, oh, I'm going to put my book together, they're literally having AI write the whole thing, just blows my mind because I'm like, that's not you. That doesn't sound like you. It doesn't act like you. It's not your stories. Like, okay, why are you even putting your name on it? Because none of it is actually you. And so that's kind of my pushback on a lot of the things with the AI side of things right now, because we end up losing ourselves in the process.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, another great story, and this was before AI, you could have done a book legitimately.
Hmm.
Um, there was a lady, a beautiful African American lady, that was in her late 50s, early 60s, so older lady,
Hmm.
lots of wisdom. The book was amazing. Oh my gosh, I mean, one of the best books I've ever read. But for the cover of it, and I came in the marketing side, so the book was already done. For the cover of it, it was this 20 something model white girl. And I was like, why'd you do that?
Yep.
She goes, well, because I wanted it to be more mainstream and, have my stuff. And
Mm.
she had all kinds of reasons. I was like, okay, so what do you want to do with this? She goes, well, more than anything, I want to become a speaker. I was like, all right, think about this. All right. Somebody gets your book, they see it, they like, oh yeah, I want to have this person come and be a speaker. And then you show up. And they're like, where's the little white girl that's in her 20s,
Right.
and, you
Total
know,
disconnect.
total audience doesn't know who you are, none of that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yes, that's a good one. I like that. That makes sense, and that's one of the things that that we, for those of us that are in the marketing world and have been around for a while, we catch this kind of stuff and it's like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. And, sometimes that's again, going back to why we need experts to help us with the stuff that we do. Um, what was my question? My next question is going to be, I had something that was, oh, you're talking about marketing people's books. You and I know this is that the book generally isn't the real end goal. Like the book is a piece of the puzzle. It is a marketing piece in itself. But when you got a book out there, what should people be looking at doing? Because we have to market the book just as much as anything else. What are some of the things people should be thinking about and kind of, if I'm going to launch a book, what should I plan? What should I be doing to get it in front of more people?
Oh, number one, you need to have a marketing plan. Okay. And most people don't. Most people are just like, well, I'm going to put my book out there. And I always push back and I'm like, yeah, you and 2.5 million other people this year are going to put their
Right.
book out there. What is the marketing plan? Secondarily, and a lot of people hate me when I say this, but, you need to have a marketing budget.
Mm,
What you do, and I'll push back myself on marketing budget because everything's time versus money.
right.
You're either going to dedicate hours of your time, meaning you're not going to be able to make money doing that because you're doing physical labor to do it,
Right.
or you're going to have to put money. Okay. And one way or another, it has to be because, the reality that still exists, even with all the things we can do and all the different types of stuff, what you market today, the results of that marketing starts to begin to show up about 90 days from now.
Right.
And what you stop marketing today within 90 days will be dead.
Right.
Just nobody will know about it. And that would be just as real for Coca-Cola. If Coca-Cola just decided today we're doing no more advertising at all, no more of the Santa Claus and the polar bears, just nothing.
Right.
We've just gotten rid of our whole entire marketing department. It might take
They
Coca-Cola with the years it has a little more than 90 days, but within 90 days, their bottom line would really
there'll
be
definitely be
feeling
an
it.
impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. So if somebody's on, somebody's getting ready to put their book out there, what are some of the things that they should probably be doing before the book actually launches? Like for me, as an example, it's like I do a lot of podcasts. I obviously, I know some people that really push, get on as many podcasts as you can before the book comes out. And I was one that for me personally, I was like, well, I'm going to get on a bunch of them anyway, but I'm not really pushing the book yet because I want to be able to talk to people and say, here's how you buy it. So was I in the wrong for that? Or what's the best plan of attack on getting the promotional process moving, getting that 90-day window started before the book even comes out?
So many people hate me for the answer for this, but really, actually, nothing. What
Okay.
should you do? You should actually literally get the book out yesterday. I mean, as
Right.
quickly as you can legitimately do it, get the book out, no promotion before it at all.
Okay.
Um, and then, and I even wrote the book. It's called Bestseller is Only the Beginning. Hitting bestseller is mostly all about SEO on Amazon.
Hmm.
Amazon's going to sell 90 to 95% of all the books sold in the world.
Right.
And so you just really need that. Think about it as a credential. If you wanted to be a doctor, the first thing you'd have to do is graduate from medical school.
Hmm.
You don't like go and do some practice surgeries on people before you go to med school.
Right.
Your book is really the same thing. So you want to do that, get the credential of making it a bestseller. And like you said, that's a day one launch. Day one is technically 3 or 4 days now, but
Right.
the first few days, get that, put the seal on the book that says it's a bestseller. Then when you go on all the podcasts, now you're not just, hey, this is another one of the 2.5 million people this year that wrote a book, but this is the guy who's the best-selling author of the book on this
Right.
subject. Secondarily, it's going through that process of writing the book is going to really help you know yourself, hone your message, and have something specific to talk about. Whereas
Hmm.
while you're developing it, you're also developing all of those talking points and that kind of thing. And so
Hmm.
you do one podcast interview and it's over here and then the next one's over there because you're not gelled together. Whereas the book kind of helps bring that all together.
Right.
And then do all of those other things, every marketing strategy that we can talk about if you want to. All of those come after you actually have done that bestseller launch.
Okay. I didn't, it's funny that you brought that up. I didn't think about this, but as I've had, so my book came out April 2026, which is this year. And I didn't really consciously think about it, but I've been talking about email stuff for 20 years. But I know now that you brought it up, I was thinking about it. I know that my conversations on shows were much better, more solid, more clean after I put the book out. Like I'm thinking about it going, you know what? I never thought about that before, but I can think about it now. How have those shows gone? And I'm like, they've been massively better because of it. And I didn't really put that together, but I know with no hesitation now that you brought that up. I'm like, yeah, that's a very, very good point. So cool. I love that. Awesome. So where do we want to go with this one? One of the things, you've talk a lot about you've done a lot of stuff in the marketing realm. And a lot of people think that marketing is always their problem. They always need more marketing. You've got some pushback on that. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that because I agree with you. Marketing isn't always the problem. What are your thoughts on that?
I love a phrase. A buddy of mine was a music teacher and also a elementary school teacher, and he said, "Practice does not make perfect." And I looked at him and I was like, well, of course it does. We've heard that our whole entire life. He's like, no, it doesn't. He goes,
Right.
if you practice doing something wrong, you're not going to get any better at it. unless you're practicing doing it right and doing it the right way, all you're going to do is become an expert at being really bad at something.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem with marketing is focused, intentional, what really works marketing is absolutely necessary and mandatory. But just because, even you and I are sitting here and we tell you something doesn't necessarily mean, run right out and immediately go do that.
Right.
That just really doesn't work. In fact, most of the time it massively,
Hmm.
wonderfully, brilliantly fails.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's, you know, that's one of the things, and we can go back to the book side of this. Is like we're talking about getting a book out there and then marketing the book. But for me, the book is a credibility piece. It's not, I'm not making money off the book. I'm going to make a little bit, but it definitely does not pay much as far as bills go. Um, but what does happen with it is it adds the credibility and it opens up the doors for like more speaking gigs and more people. I mean, I've had so many people that I've had conversations with that have now read the book that they were like, you know what, I wasn't so sure before, but now that I read your book, I get why email is so important and how I've been doing it wrong. Like I just got somebody this week and he did write a review on Amazon for me about it, saying that he's been using email and he's been doing this stuff and it was very similar to the stuff I said, but after he read the book, he got the one piece that was missing the whole time. And he was like, I've been doing a bunch of it, but I was like 90% there and I didn't realize that 10% is why the stuff wasn't working. And now that I read your book, I got it. I'm changing it now. And for me, that's why the book exists, because I want people to understand that. And I see so many people that, a lot of times they write the book for ego. And that's one of the things that I'm not a big fan of. It's like, you don't write the book for ego. How are you going to help change somebody? How are you going to help solve a problem that they have? And the book is a piece of it. You want them to get it, like have that light bulb moment, and then B, talk to you more. And then sometimes that talking to you means that they're going to become a client. I mean, obviously, from the business standpoint, most of us are writing books related to our business. What are your thoughts on that?
Number one is we buy from people that we know, like, and trust.
Mhm.
And we absolutely have said that to the point where it's become almost trite, but it's still true. Um, that's the space that your book falls into.
Yeah.
Marketers are all the time talking about the landing page and your copy and all those kind of things. Here's the truth. I'm just going to pull back the curtain completely and expose all marketers in the whole world. Nobody is going to buy anything of your stuff until they know you, like you, and trust you.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if you have the greatest, and we'll even talk about in your word, email, landing page, whatever.
Yeah.
Until they know you, like you, and trust you, they're not going to spend. I mean, you can probably get them to buy a $15 or $20 thing just as I'll give it a try. But
Right.
they're not going to spend $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 on a program till they get to know you. That's the place that the book sits in. Your book really is the really legitimate landing page.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And, like for me, my everything that I do is like, okay, you've got them in the door, you got them in the castle. Now let's get them to want to stay there forever. But you do have to get them there first. And the book is obviously a great way to help get them in the door for that. I remember, and I've told this story many, many times, when I launched the first book, which was in 2013. I had been trying to get in with the small business development area center in my area to teach workshops, because they did workshops regularly and they had guest speakers come in, and I could not get the director to give me the time of day. And it was probably 6 months I had been bugging this guy trying to figure out how I could get in the door with him. He's like, "Oh, we have a marketing guy." I'm like, "No, you have a guy who talks about websites. I don't talk about websites. I'm talking about email." And it was so funny because the day before we got the proof of the book, like I had the proof copy from Amazon that says not for resale on it. And I have that in my hand. And we had a networking event that we were going to as part of one of the chamber events at the time. And I walked in the door, did my 30-second commercial like everybody does. But instead of doing my normal thing, I was like, hey guys, you guys all know me. I just have something really cool I got to share. This is the proof copy. You can't even buy it until Friday. But I was so excited. I just want to share it with you. This is the book that's coming out. And after everybody broke, this dude's across the room and he makes a beeline for me, comes over, grabs the book out of my hand, thumbs through it, goes, we should do a workshop together. And I'm like, 6 months of trying to get in the door with this guy. And it took the book to make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
And so I always tell people, it's like, that's the result. That's where you're going to start seeing some really good results with that kind of stuff, because people see it as a credibility builder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the perfect starting place. And additionally to that, your book needs to give the person a small win. It doesn't have to be the whole thing.
Right.
You don't have to give them your entire $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 system in the book. I mean, nobody would read that book because it'd be too huge anyway.
Right.
But give them a small win. Go do this one little thing and let them see the impact of that.
Right.
Because then, again, to quote another one of those phrases that's said all the time, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When they see this guy legitimately wants to help me move forward, then they want to engage with you more.
Yeah. I love it. 100% agree. Very cool. All right. So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, is there anything else you'd like to leave people with before we finish up here?
I mean, the only other piece of it that I would say, specifically with book marketing, is reviews. There is nothing more impactful for your book than somebody who bought your book, and then came back and wrote a review on it. I mean, that can be a very arduous process, and we've, of course, made it easier. We've got a whole system for that. But ultimately, we've trained the world. The first thing we do before we go to a restaurant that we've never been to, rent a new car, buy a new car, is we go and we see what everybody else is saying about it. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to change our mind, because maybe we think that car is just really cool and we're going to get it anyway.
Right.
But I mean, ultimately, we are going to look at that reviews, and we're going to look and see, are the reviews, are they like consistent, and are they current? What happened? You had great reviews on your book. I'm sure your book from 2013 probably isn't getting a whole lot of reviews now because it was from 2013. That was a couple weeks ago, and that makes sense to some extent. But if you were still pushing that book as opposed to the new one, and it wasn't getting anybody that was showing the signs that they had bought it, people would be like, I wonder what's wrong with this book. Was what he was saying in there not accurate anymore? What's wrong?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's one thing too. And a lot of people don't think about this, is that once you get the first book up and running, there's nothing says you can't have another one, and you probably should have another one. I know that when I launched this book, I had more sales of the first two books, which were 2013 and 2014, than I had in years, just because they bought the one and then decided to buy the other two as well, which was, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, So having that.
And can I give everybody one little warning too?
Absolutely.
The greatest hijack that could potentially happen in your company is when you put out a book and it does really well. Because then what's going to happen is a bunch of people are going to come to you. You even said this earlier, and they're going to say, that's so cool. How did you write your book? What did you do that? And it seems like a real easy way to pick up some quick money by helping people write their book, publish their book, do the same thing you do. And what you end up doing is probably making some short-term cash, but you completely hijack what you're actually talented at and your company, and then you turn around 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, you've got this whole brand new, really cool company that all of a sudden now isn't really making any money, and your other company, the real one, isn't making any money either, because you went after that cute, beautiful, shiny object.
Took your eye off the ball. I can 100% attest to that, because I had people, because I was 100% self-published, and after I launched it, I actually had several people ask me, and it came up, So are you looking at, are you considering starting your own publishing and helping other people? And I'm like, absolutely not. No, and it's so funny because I could have very easily, and I probably could have helped. I'm gonna say probably a dozen people that had talked to me about it, and I was like, nope, not that's not the world. Of like, if you want to do that, let me know. I'll connect you with somebody because that's not. I'm not going down that route. Not for me. And but I do know a lot of. I've seen a lot of people end up doing that, and most of the time, it doesn't really work out overly well.
Yeah.
That's why we got to have people like you been in the industry for 40 years.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. Is like when we get people, there's so few people that have the sustainability people like you and I have. Like I've been in business for 30 years and I've run into a few people that, they've been doing the same thing for 10, 15, 20 years. And it's just, for me, that's a relief. I love talking to those people because they've been around for long enough that they've got the battle scars. They were there to watch technology change. Like so many people now, especially in digital marketing, I'm like, you guys have no clue how easy you have it. Because back in the day, when I started my first company, web and graphic design agency, I was hand coding everything. Nowadays, you talk to Claude and it'll build your website for you. I mean, it's crazy what's possible. And so it's nice to have those conversations with somebody who's got the longevity that you do. So thank you so much for everything you've shared today. As we're wrapping up, I always have two last questions. Last one's the easy one. How do people get a hold of you? But before that, I want to ask you what I ask everybody. This is the Meet Cool People show. And I would like to know, in your own words, what does Meet Cool People mean to you?
I love a person who really, truly just wants to be more of themselves. Doesn't matter what they do. I love it when they get to that place where they they don't have to think about it. They just can go off and they can talk for far too long. It's that space where when the subject comes up, your children roll their eyes because they know, oh, here we go. Now we're going to go off on this subject. I love it when people get in that space because then we go away from all these business strategies and all these things, and we just get to see who the real you is. And that's when the really cool you really comes out.
I love that. Nobody's ever come to it with that angle before. That's a first. And it's very cool. And as soon as you were saying the whole, when your kids are sitting there, oh God, that story again. I was like, yep, I remember those from my daughter. Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. How can people find out more about you, get connected to all the cool stuff you're working on?
So the easiest thing is, just hop on my schedule. I give a free 15 minutes to anybody, no matter whether you have a 25-year-old book or you think maybe possible you'd like to have a book. You just go to askstevekid.com. That's AskSteveKidd, 2Ds.com. That goes straight to my schedule. Feel free to hop on my schedule. I'm glad to give you that 15 minutes to talk about where you are, give you some suggestions. Sometimes the solution is, yeah, here's the cool things we can do for you. And sometimes the solution is, hey, really what you need is these 3, 4, 5 things. And I've got a whole 40 years worth of digital Rolodex of people
Nice.
that, I love referring you to too.
Awesome. I love it. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, my friend. It was a pleasure having you come hang out today. We are going to definitely continue this conversation and talk. We can talk about so many things. Like I said, at the beginning, I don't even remember how long our first call was, but we talked for quite a while and it was definitely a good one. So I want to keep those conversations going.
Thanks for having me, Eli. I really appreciate it.
All right. Everybody else, get out there. Have an awesome week. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out. Let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.